Morning, Steve. Yes, big fan of Professor Bernanke, of course, like many people in the market. Look, I think what we've seen over the course of this week is a couple of the central banks. You mentioned the SNB, the Fed, of course, most notably, getting ahead of the curve for the first time this cycle. Really, we've had a situation where major central banks have been more behind the inflation curve than I've ever seen before. And finally, with the super hikes, we're seeing a clear hawkish tone being delivered to the market. The bonds are rallying on the back of what the Fed has said. And there's increasing evidence that they're getting ahead of the curve. So I think that's a really important development, because it does create a situation where in the market we can begin to believe that inflation expectations aren't getting really impacted. The inflation situation might not be getting as entrenched as many have feared. So that's an important development. That's the one sort of takeaway I think from this week, that policymakers are really getting ahead of the curve now.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joseph. Just want to check something. Swiss inflation rate is 2.9%. Swiss interest rates are negative 0.25%. Just want to make sure that's ahead of the curve with a negative real rate of over 3%. Just want to check on that one.
Okay, so it's more about the Fed. I would concede that. But the steps that we've seen in the Eurozone and in Switzerland this week are really notable as well. I think not just the SMB, which is a particular case, but also in the situation of the ECB, what Mrs. Lagarde has been talking about, the emergency meeting, the speech yesterday about spread control being a key focus for the ECB. That's a really important message that they're sending to the market. We need to wait for the details, of course. High inflation rates put all of these central bankers in a real bind. But the critical threat to the Eurozone is, of course, how you exit negative rates, how you begin to push interest rates higher to a level that many members of the ECB are going to be more comfortable with, given the stagflation tone to the economic data, while protecting the periphery. They just simply can't afford to have peripheral spreads blowing out and challenging the debt arithmetic in Italy, Spain, Greece at this point in time, because that sets you down a pathway toward Euro crisis too. So the announcements that we've seen in the case of the ECB, Mrs. Lagarde is already talking about, we know there's going to be more details to come around how they're going to control the spread between periphery bonds in Italy or Spain versus Germany. That's an incredibly important development. And I think it sets the tone, which suggests that central bankers finally really get it and are moving to a situation where they're allaying some of the fears that people in the market have had for a while.